America's fiscal crisis goes far beyond the so-called deficit problem. Simply addressing existing deficits is like treating only one symptom of a disease. That disease is what I call the decline of fiscal democracy. Much of our government spending is on autopilot, directed by automatic growth in some spending programs and an unwillingness to collect enough taxes to pay our bills. As a result, if we tame our deficits, at least four serious problems remain. For one, a barely sustainable budget leaves little room to combat future recessions or emergencies. Second, less of our budget still goes for investment in the future, particularly our children. Third, when all government spending is preordained, voters have little power to influence the nation's direction. And finally, with so few discretionary resources left, our political system becomes more polarized as legislators continually must break past promises, but often can't survive politically by doing so. Most discussion about deficits centers on sustainability, or achieving just enough deficit reduction to prevent our debt from exploding or growing faster than our incomes. But if that's all we achieve, then there's still no discretion left. And the world doesn't stand still. We've already seen some European countries exacerbate their unemployment rates and breed mounting public discontent because their already high level of debt reduced their ability to fight new recessionary pressures with new stimulus. Even if our budget path was sustainable and could respond to new emergencies, it remains one for a nation in decline. Growing shares of our budget are dedicated to outdated programs that focus on consumption, discourage work, and invest less in our future. Consider government spending on children. Current budget projections say economic growth will enable the government to spend $1 trillion more 10 years from now than we do today. But all of that money, and then some, would go to pay for retirement and health benefits and interest on our debt. Meanwhile, spending on children, education, and growth-oriented programs would drastically decline both as a share of the economy and the budget. These budgets, preordained from the past, not only discriminate against investment in children, they limit our freedom to address today's needs and preferences. The young feel this most because they didn't participate in the decisions that led to today's mandated programs or to the debt left to them. They are simply expected to accept such choices as a social welfare system that promises them ever more when they get old, but ever less while they work or raise children. Finally, locking in so much of our future explains why politics has become so partisan. With no fiscal flexibility, a politician who wants to spend more or tax less can only do so by reneging on something already promised. And leaders who renege on past promises, even unsustainable ones, jeopardize their political careers and surrender more of the fiscal future to their opposition. Republicans fear that if they agree to raise taxes, Democrats will simply use the money to spend more. Democrats fear that any saving they squeeze from entitlement programs will be used by Republicans to cut taxes. Overcoming such an impasse requires a considerable amount of trust, which does not exist today. In sum, simple deficit reduction cannot meet all these challenges. We have to attack the disease, the extraordinary controls both political parties attempt to place on the future.